St. Francis faced incredible challenges in his journey of faith. But what if I told you that these challenges led to some of the most powerful lessons we could ever learn? Lessons that transformed my life and could transform yours. In a world obsessed with wealth, status, and ease, St. Francis showed us a path that's not only counterintuitive but revolutionary. He found joy in suffering, lived simply, and embraced love in a way that defied the norms. It wasn't easy, far from it. But what if the key to unlocking true peace, happiness, and purpose in your life isn't found in avoiding hardship, but embracing it? Today, we'll dive into 3 life-changing lessons from St. Francis that can deepen your faith and change how you see the world. Are you ready to break free from the noise and discover the freedom that only faith can bring? Stay with me, because what you're about to hear might just change everything. St. Francis of Assisi is widely known for his profound humility, a virtue that was central to his transformation and spiritual journey. He came from a wealthy family, but chose to give up his privilege and wealth, opting instead to live among the poor. For Francis, true wealth was found not in material possessions, but in humility and simplicity. This is a lesson we can all apply today. In a world obsessed with status, comparison, and material success, St. Francis teaches us that true happiness lies in detaching from these worldly values. Imagine waking up each day with less focus on your accomplishments and more on how you can serve others. That's the essence of Francis' life. Francis' humility also manifested in his relationship with nature. He didn't see himself as above creation, but as part of it, often referring to animals and the natural world as his brothers and sisters. This deep sense of connectedness teaches us that humility isn't just about lowering oneself. It's about recognizing our place within the grander design of God's creation. A practical way to live this out is by being more mindful of the environment, recycling, or even spending quiet time in nature, acknowledging its beauty and giving thanks to God. Another key aspect of Francis' humility was his ability to ask for forgiveness, even when he hadn't wronged anyone. He believed that humility was closely tied to reconciliation and peace. When was the last time you sincerely apologized, even if you felt justified in your actions? Practicing this type of humility can heal relationships and soften hearts, fostering a life filled with grace and peace. Lastly, humility for St. Francis meant being open to learning from everyone, even those society might disregard. He famously said, "I have been all things unholy. If God can work through me, He can work through anyone." It's a humbling thought, right? In our daily lives, we often overlook the wisdom of those around us, especially when they don't fit our ideas of success. Yet, the people we encounter, even in the most unexpected places, may be the ones God uses to teach us the most valuable lessons. St. Francis had an exceptional understanding of love, particularly the radical, unconditional love that Christ calls us to. This wasn't just a love expressed through kind words, but through action, especially towards the outcasts of society. Francis didn't shy away from the sick, the poor, or the marginalized. Instead, he embraced them, showing that true love knows no boundaries. In today's fast-paced world, where individualism often takes precedence, Francis' radical love reminds us that we are called to reach out to those in need. It could be as simple as visiting a sick friend or volunteering at a local shelter. It's in these acts of love that we imitate Christ's love for us. Another compelling example of Francis' radical love was his interaction with the lepers. He initially had a deep fear and disgust toward them, but through prayer and grace, he overcame it and even kissed a leper's hand as a sign of his newfound compassion. What about us? What fears or prejudices are holding us back from loving those we find difficult to love? Whether it's someone who's wronged us or someone we've simply avoided. Embracing Francis' example challenges us to step out of our comfort zones and show love without hesitation or fear. Radical love also means loving the earth and all creatures, which Francis famously did. He viewed everything as part of God's creation, deserving of respect and care. In our time, this lesson is more relevant than ever. With the growing environmental crises, showing love to the earth might mean making lifestyle changes like reducing waste or supporting sustainability. Francis' love for creation was not just admiration. It was a reflection of his deep reverence for the Creator. Can we adopt a similar attitude and begin treating the world with more care and love? Lastly, Francis' life shows that radical love often involves sacrifice. He gave up everything, his wealth, his comfort, even his family, to follow Christ's example of self-giving love. While not all of us are called to such extreme measures, we are all called to sacrifice something: our time, resources, or maybe even our pride. When was the last time you made a true sacrifice for the love of another? It's in these moments of selflessness that we grow closer to the heart of God. One of the most extraordinary lessons we can take from St. Francis is his ability to find joy in suffering. He didn't just endure hardships. He embraced them with a smile, believing that suffering brought him closer to Christ. This is a difficult concept for most of us to grasp. We often go out of our way to avoid discomfort, seeking instead a life of ease. But Francis teaches that there's a hidden grace in suffering, especially when we unite our struggles with the sufferings of Jesus. Think about the times in your life when things didn't go as planned. Was there an unexpected strength or lesson that came from that pain? For Francis, joy didn't mean the absence of suffering, but rather the ability to see God's hand at work even in the hardest moments. He famously referred to this as perfect joy. Once, when he and his brothers were rejected and mocked by others, he taught that true joy was found not in being praised or accepted, but in bearing those rejections with patience and love. Can we find this same kind of joy in our lives today? Maybe it's in the small daily frustrations, like dealing with a difficult coworker or handling setbacks. Instead of resisting, Francis invites us to embrace these moments as opportunities for spiritual growth. Another powerful aspect of Francis' joy in suffering was his sense of gratitude. Even when he was physically ill and in pain, he praised God through song and prayer. What a beautiful reminder for us, especially in moments when gratitude is the last thing on our minds. Imagine facing a tough situation but still being able to thank God for his presence. That's what Francis did, and it's a practice we can adopt. Maybe today, start by thanking God for one thing, even if the day hasn't been perfect. Finally, St. Francis reminds us that joy and suffering are not mutually exclusive. In fact, they often coexist. As Christians, we are called to carry our crosses, but we are also promised the joy that comes from knowing we are never alone in our suffering. Think of how much lighter our burdens would feel if we saw them not as punishments, but as pathways to deeper intimacy with God. Francis shows us that when we let go of our resistance to suffering, we open ourselves up to the profound joy that only Christ can give. One of the most striking aspects of St. Francis' life was his radical embrace of simplicity. He willingly gave up all his possessions to live a life completely reliant on God. In a world where success is often measured by how much we have, Francis shows us that true freedom comes from having less, not more. Imagine how much lighter we'd feel if we let go of the unnecessary distractions in our lives, whether it's material things, endless to-do lists, or even unhealthy relationships. Simplicity allows us to focus on what really matters, our relationship with God and others. Francis understood that material wealth often leads to spiritual poverty. By choosing poverty, he became rich in the things that matter most: peace, love, and faith. Today, many of us are trapped by the constant pressure to accumulate more money, more success, more possessions. But what if we took a page from Francis' life and simplified our approach? It could be as easy as decluttering our homes, reducing our consumption, or spending less time on social media. Simplicity isn't just about having fewer things. It's about making space for God to fill our hearts with His presence. Living simply also meant that Francis had more time for prayer and contemplation. Without the distractions of wealth and status, he was able to fully immerse himself in God's presence. How often do we get caught up in the noise of daily life and forget to spend time in prayer? Simplicity creates room for silence. And in that silence, we can hear God's voice more clearly. Perhaps it's time to carve out moments in our day for quiet reflection, to disconnect from the world and reconnect with our Creator. Lastly, simplicity for St. Francis wasn't just about personal peace. It was about solidarity with the poor. He didn't just preach about poverty. He lived it, walking alongside those who had nothing. This is a call for us, too, to live in such a way that we are not only detached from material things, but also more generous and aware of the needs of others. When was the last time we gave something away without expecting anything in return? Francis shows us that in giving, we truly receive, and in living simply, we discover the fullness of life. Now that we've explored the powerful lessons from St. Francis, it's time to reflect on how we can apply them in our daily lives. Imagine what would change if you embraced humility, practiced radical love, found joy in your struggles, and simplified your life. What would your relationship with God look like? How would your interactions with others change? These aren't just lofty ideas. They're practical steps that can bring you closer to God and transform your journey of faith. So, are you ready to take that next step? What can you do today to put these lessons into action? Whether it's forgiving someone, cutting back on distractions, or showing compassion to those in need, start small and watch how God works through you. And remember, faith is a journey. Every step you take matters. Ready to take your faith journey to the next level? Get your copy of the Yearly Prayer and Reflection Journal today and experience the power of daily prayer, reflection, and spiritual growth. Whether you're seeking a deeper connection with God, looking for guidance, or simply need a source of encouragement, this journal is your perfect companion. Don't wait. Start your transformative journey now and let God's Word shape your life, one day at a time. Click the link in the comments and begin living a more purposeful, faith-filled year. And before you go, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit the notification bell so you can continue learning more about how faith can enrich your life.